I'm 71 years old. I've survived a war, a recession, and the death of my wife. I thought I knew what pain was. But the sharpest pain of all? It's standing in the doorway of your own child's home, holding a homemade gift, and being told by a greedy, arrogant man, "There's no place for you here." Last Thanksgiving, I was publicly humiliated by my daughter's husband. He didn't just turn me away. He demanded my daughter choose between us, and her silence in that moment cut me deeper than any knife. You want to know what I did next? I didn't fight. I walked away with my dignity intact. And that quiet choice, that single act of self-respect, triggered a chain of events that resulted in the most complete, satisfying, and morally justified justice I have ever witnessed. Get ready, because this is the story of how a bully got exactly what he deserved, not because I sought revenge, but because he destroyed his own life trying to destroy mine. If you've ever been made to feel like a burden, or if you've ever had to watch someone you love be manipulated by a controlling person, then hit that like button and subscribe. This is my real-life story, and it's a difficult one to tell, but it's a necessary one. My name is Frank. I live in upstate New York, and for 40 years, I worked as a master carpenter. I built things that lasted. I built our family home. I built furniture, and I tried to build a strong life for my wife, Martha, and our only daughter, Emily. Martha and I started the Thanksgiving tradition decades ago. Martha was the host with the most. The smell of the roasted turkey, the laughter, the sound of the grandkids running around the furniture I built, it was magic. After Martha passed away, 7 years ago, the house became quiet. Thanksgiving became a memory I tried to recreate. My signature contribution? A slow-smoked applewood ham with a special glaze. The ham, Martha used to say, tasted like home. I put my love into it. It was my way of keeping her memory alive at the holiday table. Everything changed when Emily met Jack. He was a young investment banker, smooth, ambitious, and with an undeniable air of entitlement. I saw the red flags right away. He talked about money constantly. He corrected Emily in front of me. He had a way of shrinking the air in a room, making everything feel heavy and temporary. But Emily was blinded. She saw success and confidence. I saw control and conceit. They married 2 years ago, and Jack immediately decided they would host Thanksgiving. I didn't fight it. I just wanted to be with my daughter. But the atmosphere shifted. It wasn't about love anymore. It was about performance. It was about Jack showing off his imported wine and his expensive carving set. It was about his success. This last Thanksgiving, the one that changed everything, I drove over with that perfect 40-pound applewood ham sitting in a warmer box on the passenger seat. I carried that ham like it was gold. I was hopeful. I was going to be with my daughter. I got there early around noon. Emily opened the door and her face lit up. That genuine smile I hadn't seen enough of lately. "Dad, oh, your ham smells incredible. Come in, come in," she whispered. I set the ham carefully on a counter Jack had covered with expensive imported cheeses. Jack, of course, was on a business call in the living room, wearing a tailored suit, even though it was a holiday. He was always on. When he finally hung up, he walked into the kitchen, saw me, and gave me a curt, barely perceptible chin lift. No handshake, no happy Thanksgiving, just that arrogant, dismissive little movement. "Frank," he said. His voice was always too loud, too confident. Jack brought the ham, I replied, trying to keep my voice friendly. He glanced at it, one quick sweeping look, and shrugged. Yeah, well, Emily actually ordered a massive spiral ham from that upscale butcher shop down the road. We're kinda set. You can just put yours somewhere out of the way, I guess. We need the counter space. The jab wasn't about the ham, it was about status. His imported, expensive ham versus my homemade blue-collar home ham. It was a subtle slap, telling me my contribution wasn't good enough. I felt the familiar knot of frustration tighten in my chest, a deep ache right where my heart was. I didn't say anything. I just moved my heavy container to a dusty corner of the pantry floor, my spine stiff with wounded pride. As the afternoon wore on, Jack's behavior became more aggressively dismissive. He talked around me, never to me. He'd make comments about old traditions being quaint but inefficient while looking right past my head. Emily's cousin, a young schoolteacher named Linda, asked me about Martha's garden. I was just starting to talk about the old rosebush, the one Martha loved, when Jack cut across the conversation sharply. Linda, honey, is that a new watch? Look, I'm telling you, you should dunk that retirement fund and get into commodities. You're leaving money on the table. Frank, listen to me. If you were still working, I could show you how to triple your 401k in 6 months. He wasn't offering advice. He was asserting his financial dominance. He wanted everyone to know he was the alpha. And I, the aging, sentimental carpenter, was irrelevant. I felt the blood rush hot to the back of my neck. I clenched my fists, the familiar tremors of old age compounded by sheer, righteous anger. Control your temper, Frank. Don't ruin Emily's day. Jack's father even gave me a sympathetic, pained look. Jack was a monster to his own family, too. That realization was a small, cold comfort. By 6 o'clock, everyone was gathered. The table was exquisite. Jack was nothing if not meticulous about appearances. The room was full of laughter and the clinking of china. I felt a wave of exhaustion, but I was ready to sit down. I saw my place card. Dad. It was right next to Emily. A small gesture of love, and a desperate plea, maybe. I moved toward my chair, my hand reaching for the mahogany back. Jack, standing tall at the head of the table, raised his crystal wine glass. He delivered his toast, a long, self-congratulatory speech about his success and his ability to provide. It felt like a corporate annual report. When he finally lowered the glass, he scanned the table, his eyes full of triumph. Then he looked at me. A cold, hard calculation entered his gaze. He didn't yell. He just said it in a low, measured voice, quiet enough to be terrifying. He walked around the table, picked up my place card, and held it between his thumb and forefinger like it was garbage. Frank, I apologize, he started, his voice dripping with faux concern. We actually had a change in the seating chart at the last minute. We're full. There's no place for you here. I froze, convinced my old ears had betrayed me. What did you say, Jack? My voice was rough, a low rumble in my chest. He shrugged, dropping the card onto the buffet table. We didn't count you for dinner. You should have RSVP'd. Maybe next time, let us know before you show up uninvited. The room went completely, terrifyingly silent. The sound of a spoon dropping somewhere in the kitchen was deafening. Emily let out a sharp, choked gasp. Her eyes were wide, panicked. She opened her mouth to protest, a tiny, wounded sound escaping her throat. And just like that, I saw it. The same paralysis I'd seen for 2 years. The fear in her eyes was directed at him, not at the situation. She was terrified of his reaction, not of my humiliation. That was the turning point. The betrayal wasn't Jack's cruelty. It was Emily's inaction. My 71 years of life flashed before my eyes. Martha, my hard work, the life I'd built with respect. I would not allow that respect to be stripped away by this spoiled brat. My hands started to tremble again, not from fear, but from a terrifying surge of cold clarity. The dignified anger of an old man who has nothing left to lose. I looked at Emily. I held her gaze. I didn't give her an out. I just let her see the devastating disappointment in my eyes. Then I turned my back to her. "I understand," I said, my voice coming out deep and clear, commanding attention. "I will go." I walked through the house, past the family members frozen in their places. I didn't rush. I walked with the slow, deliberate pace of a judge delivering a sentence. I went to the pantry. I opened the container and took out my beautiful, perfect applewood ham. I looked at it, then back at Jack, who was standing there, a smug, victorious look starting to cross his face. I didn't throw it. I didn't make a scene. That would be playing his game. I walked to the front door, still holding the ham. I opened the door, stepped out into the biting November cold, and quietly closed the door behind me. I sat in my old Ford F-150, my breath plumed white in the cold air. The tears came, slow and hot, blurring the windshield. They weren't just for me. They were for the daughter I thought I had raised. I cried for the loss of a tradition, for the profound loneliness of that moment. I drove home to my empty house, clutching the cold, heavy container. That night, I heated up a slice of the ham, made some instant coffee, and watched the news. I slept soundly for the first time in months because I had chosen my dignity over his approval. The next morning, I woke up with the sun. I couldn't sit home. The silence of the house was too loud. I decided I had to make my ham mean something. I remembered the local church shelter where Martha and I used to volunteer. Every year, they hosted a meal for the homeless and those without family. I drove down there, walked in, and handed the giant ham to the cook. "Can you use this?" I asked. The cook, a kindly woman named Mrs. Peterson, just grinned. "Mr. Frank, of course. We're short on meat this year. God bless you." I put on an apron and got to work. Serving those people was an immediate, powerful antidote to the shame of the night before. They weren't judging my clothes or my financial status. They were just grateful. They were warm. I was needed. We shared stories. We laughed. I felt visible and valued. Around noon, the dining room doors swung open, and there she was, Emily. She looked like she hadn't slept. Her eyes were bloodshot, her hair a mess. She was standing there, scanning the room, and when her eyes found mine, me, an old man happily dishing out collard greens to a stranger, she broke. She walked straight to me, her step slow and heavy. "Dad," she whispered, tears already falling. I put down the spoon and looked at her. My expression was calm, patient, but utterly unyielding. I needed to know why she was here. "I left Jack," she choked out. The words were a massive, shuddering release. "Last night after you left, he yelled at me. He said I was an embarrassment. He said if I ever saw you again, if I even called you that I had to choose between him and the life he built. She reached out and gripped my apron, her knuckles white. And I realized I had already lost my mother. I couldn't lose my father too. I chose you, Dad. I chose us. I pulled her into a hug, my arms tightening around my baby girl. She was shaking, but the fear was gone, replaced by relief. For the first time in years, the tension around her shoulders had disappeared. The revenge was complete. Jack, the man obsessed with control and appearances, had made a monumental mistake. By trying to isolate me, he revealed his true nature to Emily. By demanding she choose him and his money, he forced her to choose love and family. Jack's fate was far worse than a shouting match. He was left alone in his beautiful, empty house with his expensive, uneaten dinner. His life collapsing because he valued status over humanity. That was the sweetest, most deserved justice I could ever ask for. That day, serving simple food with my daughter in a room full of strangers was the best Thanksgiving I've ever had. I learned that loneliness isn't about being physically alone. It's about being unwanted. And in that shelter, I was wanted. Emily was wanted. We were healing. Jack's words, "There's no place for you here," he meant them as a final blow. But they became a doorway. They forced me out of a toxic environment and into a place of true connection. They forced Emily to stand up for herself and walk away from a bad marriage. Emily is back home now, living in her old room. She's starting to find herself again. She's strong, determined, and funny, the daughter I remember. As for me, I'm still the old carpenter. But now, I know that my true work wasn't just building houses. It was building dignity. I didn't need to fight Jack. All I had to do was stand tall and walk away. That simple act triggered the karma he so richly earned. Remember this: family isn't just who you share a name with. It's who stands by you when everyone else tells you there's no place for you. And sometimes the only revenge you need is to build a better life for yourself, so satisfyingly whole that the people who hurt you can only watch as they crumble alone. If my story gave you chills, or if you've ever had to summon that inner strength to walk away from a relationship that was killing your soul, please smash that like button right now. I want to know your stories. Tell me in the comments. What was the biggest act of self-respect that helped you reclaim your power? Did you ever have to leave a situation to protect your peace? Your experiences matter, and I promise I read every single one. Don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories about finding justice, standing up for yourself, and the quiet triumph of dignity. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, if they don't have a place for you at Bear Table, build a bigger, better one.